Believe it or not, we're halfway through 2024, so there's no better time to go through 10 of my favorite films of the year so far. Just a little bit of an explainer before I launch in. It's always tricky determining what year some films are released, so I have generally gone off of wide release or if I was able to catch them on a festival run. So there's a couple films that may have had a limited release in 2023. I wasn't able to catch them, so they're on this list. And similarly, there's a couple films that haven't had a wide release yet, but I may have been able to catch them at Sundance, for example. At number 10, we have I Saw the TV Glow.
I know this might sound crazy. I don't want to alarm you. Do you remember a TV show we used to watch together? It was called
The Big Opaque?
This is the second feature film from director Jane Schoenbrunn, and while it is a little bit more accessible than the first We're All Going to the World's Fair, it is still a bit of a niche project, and that's not a bad thing. It's a film that really could only have been created from Schoenbrunn. It is essentially an allegory about gender identity and dysmorphia and is rooted in Schoenbrunn's own lived experience. And as a result of this, it will resonate so deeply with some folks. And while it might not work for everyone, it is a really worthwhile project to give a look, to watch, particularly when you examine it through that lens of gender. Basically, we follow our main character as they discover their favorite show, The Pink Opaque, and start to kind of see themselves in one of the characters in the show. Again, without going into spoiler territory, it veers into the surreal, and it's less about kind of trying to figure out what is real and what isn't, and it's more about just sitting there with the character and trying to put yourselves in their shoes. Number 9 is MaXXXine.
I'm curious, did you always want to be in that line of work?
I always wanted to be famous.
This is the final installment in the X trilogy from director Ty West, and while it has received mixed reviews, it's a film that I really loved. It holds true to some of the slasher influences of the first two projects, but it also sets out on its own path. It is gorgeous, beautiful use of these anamorphic lenses, incorporating splashes of neon throughout, really leaning into this 80s retro aesthetic. While Mia Goth is not given as much here as she was in Pearl, for example, she still has a strong performance, but really MaXXXine is about having a good time, about going along for the ride, and just being absorbed with the absolute chaos on screen. Number 8 is Exhibiting Forgiveness.
It's a very personal story about an artist struggling to reconcile with his past. The film stars Andre Holland, John Earl Jelks, Andra Day, and Ingenue Ellis.
This is a Sundance film from Titus Kaphar that was waiting months and months to get a wide release, and finally it received a distribution deal that will see it landing in theaters on October 18th, and I could not be more excited. While Kaphar might not be a well-known name in the film world, he is a world-renowned painter, and Exhibiting Forgiveness is a semi-autobiographical tale about, as the name suggests, this journey of forgiveness. We see the lead, played by Andre Holland, going through this journey with his father and kind of determining whether or not he can forgive him for what he has done, particularly in his childhood. And interestingly, he uses his painting as part of this healing, part of this journey. And this is exactly what Titus Kaphar did. In fact, the name of the film, Exhibiting Forgiveness, is taken from one of his own personal exhibits. While at first glance it might seem that this is a film preaching how we must forgive those who have wronged us, it really isn't. It's a film that is suggesting that everyone's journey will be different. There is no one right or wrong approach, one right or wrong answer, and as individuals, we will find our journey, our path to be different than those around us. It is a truly beautiful meditative piece that, again, could only have come from this director. Kaphar is truly an artist in so many definitions of the word, and I can't wait to see what he comes out with next. Number 7 is Didi.
Are you ashamed of me?
I'm Didi.
No, you're beautiful.
I love you.
No, I love you.
Didi, 你们就是我的梦想。But sometimes it's a little hard.
This film from director Sean Wang, who was just nominated last year for a short film based on his own real-life grandmothers, is back with his first feature. This is also rooted in his own lived experiences as a Taiwanese American, and it is a beautiful portrait of growing up in the 2000s, of coming of age, and of finding out who you are. Yes, I know that there have been countless movies made about this whole concept, both about culture and even more about coming of age, but there's been few that have captured this particular time period of the late 2000s so perfectly. This is attributable, of course, to Sean Wang's direction, but also to Isaac Wang's performance. He really does a nuanced job, a nuanced portrayal of this teenage angst, of this push and pull between friend groups, between family, between culture, and this new society. And I think he probably exceeded everyone's expectations. Number 6 is another Sundance film in Thelma.
$10,000 to this address.
$10,000?
How did you think this was real?
Mom, you thought it was real too.
Oh my God. She was very convincing.
Well, she was scared, your mother. We were all scared.
I wasn't quite as scared, just for the record.
This movie is impossible to hate. If you walk out of a viewing of Thelma and say to yourself, I hate that movie, I don't know what to say to you. It stars June Squibb, a 94-year-old woman in her first ever feature role, as she goes on a revenge trip to get back at the man that scammed her over the telephone. It is a hilarious concept, and Squibb is so good here. Initially, you might think that this is just a comedy with this off-the-wall concept, and it is hilarious, but it's so much more than that. It really is an exploration of mortality, of the inevitability of death, and of the importance of keeping strong relationships around you, be it intimate partners, be it family members, or be it friends. This is exemplified most clearly through Thelma's relationship with her grandson, played by Fred Heckinger, in this movie. Their bond is so beautiful, and if you have ever had a grandparent or a parent and you've seen their decline and you know that there's nothing you can do to stop it, this movie will surely bring you to tears. Oh, and I didn't even mention that it's all based on director Josh Margolin's own grandmother, who is named Thelma Post, the name of the character, and the scenes filmed in Thelma's apartment are filmed in the actual Thelma's apartment. So just one other reason to love this movie. Number 5, we have Civil War.
Western forces will reach the White House on July 4th.
Oh my God.
Get in the car! Get in the car!
This is one of the bigger films on this list. I am an Alex Garland fan. Ex Machina is one of my favorite sci-fi films of all time, and I think that he did a brilliant job here. He took a concept that could have been hyper political and polarizing and pointed, but he made the conflict so general that it became less about left and right. It became less about the specific political divisions that currently exist in the United States, and it became much more about our relationship to violence and our almost insatiable hunger for division. We follow this group of photojournalists and are put directly into the action, helped by Garland's use of a prosumer camera in the Ronin 4D, which allowed the audience to really get up close and personal to the bloodshed, and it made that violence seem so real and, in turn, much more impactful. Number 4 is Dune Part 2.
It's breathtaking. When you see sand here, imagine water. If you dive in, you can't reach the bottom.
You dive in.
Yes, it's called swimming.
I don't believe you.
Another kind of blockbuster film on this list from director Denis Villeneuve. The visuals here are, of course, in classic Villeneuve fashion, absolutely gorgeous. It is much more fast-paced than the first film. A lot of critiques about Dune Part 1 was that it was so slow and just about building this world and the story. Dune Part 2 is not really like that. It is action-packed from start to finish, which will probably work pretty well for most folks. At times, I would have appreciated to actually slow down a little bit, but I feel like I'm in the minority there. It does appear that we are officially getting a third film, Dune Messiah, which is amazing because I trust Villeneuve so completely with this project, a project that he's wanted to make ever since he was a teenager. Number 3 is A Real Pain. This film comes from director and star Jesse Eisenberg. I was able to hear Eisenberg talk about this project while down at Sundance, and it is clear how his own personal connection to the story really elevated the film as a whole. It's based on his real-life aunt, although in the film it's his grandmother, and her forced deportation out of Poland as a Polish Jew during the Second World War. It's not a Holocaust movie, really. It uses the backdrop of this tragedy, the backdrop of real locations that they filmed at in Poland, to provide a level of pain, a level of trauma, to then compare it to the seemingly small pain and trauma of the individual. Eisenberg stars alongside Kieran Culkin, who delivers, as of the recording of this video, my favorite performance of the year. He is heartbreaking. He is so real. Again, the title has multiple meanings here, and this film should be watched for his performance alone. He perfectly plays this character that appears on the surface to have everything together, is the life of the party, is always cracking jokes, but beneath this kind of thin facade is a man who is extremely broken and is experiencing deep, deep pain that has been unresolved. Number 2 is All of Us Strangers.
They died just before I was 12. I'm trying to write about them at the moment.
How's it going?
Strangely.
film from Andrew Haigh is another one that is very likely to bring you to tears. It stars Andrew Scott alongside Paul Mescal, who both bring brilliant performances. Unfortunately, not receiving as much love in last year's award season as they should have. But it is a film that beautifully uses surrealism, uses these aspects of the unreal, of the otherworldly, to somehow ground the film and make it even more real. It's a delicate dance that not many folks would be able to pull off, but All of Us Strangers definitely makes it work. It is an exploration of reconciliation with one's family, of coming to terms with one's own identity, of the idea that despite this reconciliation and growth as we age, we are probably never going to completely come to terms with the person that we are, despite knowing that we should. It's a beautiful love story. It's a beautiful story about family. There is one scene in particular when Andrew Scott, quote unquote, visits his parents who have actually passed away, hence the surrealism, and they have what is a simple conversation, but is something that probably everyone or most people can relate to. The words that have been said and that haven't been said between father and child or mother and child, the things that we wish we had said, and maybe more importantly, the things that we wish we had heard. Number one is the zone of interest. This film from Jonathan Glazer is so profoundly beautiful in an innumerable number of ways. He has crafted something that is unique, that is so still, but yet moving at all the right times. It comes across initially as very much an art house project using almost exclusively locked off cameras. In fact, Glazer on set at the primary location, the house that the film is set, literally placed cameras in a select number of spots and did not move them. We only have certain shots, certain angles. They are almost, again, exclusively wide angle shots. We don't have close-ups of these characters, and Glazer was intentional here because he didn't want to overly humanize the individuals. It's a tricky thing that he's doing here because he's making a Holocaust film, sort of, about actual members of the Nazi Party and their family. So it can be very tricky to not have the audience empathize with your main characters. And so Glazer so adeptly uses these wider angle lenses to just have us be voyeurs, to just watch what is unfolding and see it through our own eyes. That being said, there is a scene, kind of the final scene of the film, that does subvert this a little bit, and it is a scene that has been talked about a lot for many reasons. It is thought-provoking, heart-wrenching, and it is just one of many examples of Glazer's brilliance in his direction here.